Hello, everybody. Hi, Emma.
Hi there.
Hiya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, super. Thanks. So it's been a wee while since I saw you. The last time I think was at the Business Gateway. You were holding the LinkedIn seminar.
Yes,
I
yes.
attended at Kirkintilloch. Yeah, and that's
When
one of
we're
your
allowed to meet face to face.
yes, yeah, and that's one of your businesses is the LinkedIn Guru.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about it just now. I'm going to come back to that one because we're here
Okay.
to talk about your other business, which is the CV Guru.
Yeah.
Tell us a wee bit about that business, how you started and what it is that you do, Emma.
So I started the CV Guru. It's almost 4 years old at the beginning of July, and I decided to start it when I was halfway through my maternity leave with my second daughter. And I kind of thought, well, how am I going to manage to do a drop off at nursery? My other daughter was going to school a year on from that, and my husband works in Perth. So it was going to be a bit of a juggle. And I thought, well, do you know what? I've done CV writing before because I used to freelance doing that. I'm from a recruitment background. Let's just give it a go and see. And then it grew arms and legs from there. So I never went back to my place of employment after maternity leave. And the company has, surely kept on growing really. So we're now 4 years on. We've got some freelance writers that support us with extra work that we've got, and we also have a part-time administrator to assist me with all the admin side of things.
Wow, brilliant. That's great. I think a lot of mums have that kind of feeling, don't they? You have your baby and you're torn between wanting to get a little bit of you back, but also the thought of, not being able to rush back if required and check they're okay. It changes how you feel, doesn't it?
No, definitely. And I think it just really helps just give me that flexibility. Although your work can be, all over the day, at least I can nip to the school for if there's shows and bits and pieces. And if one of them is unwell, I've got that flexibility. So it definitely gives you the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah. So is most of your business then, is it all conducted online mostly?
Yeah, all of it's conducted online. So people will either hear about our services on LinkedIn or via our website, and people submit an order online. We then receive it, get in touch with the client, find out how they want to tailor their CVs, and send them a first draft of their documents. And then we continue to refine it for them until they're completely happy with it.
Uh-huh. And CVs are something that a lot of people struggle writing, particularly if they've got to write, statements about themselves and things like that. And, I think we all tend to be quite modest. I think naturally, the British particularly, I think that it's quite a hard thing to say, well, I can do this and I can do that. So I can see, apart from all the presentation and all the other things that you do as well, but that must be one of the really important reasons why people need to go and get somebody to help them with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think what most people struggle with is finding it, being objective about themselves, and also working out what information should and shouldn't be included. So they're worrying about not putting enough, and then you get some people that just put down absolutely everything, and it's like their whole life story, which again makes it hard for the reader to find the key points that they are looking to find out about that person. So I think it is hard writing about yourself, and you're right, some people are too modest, or they simply aren't putting in the information that's expected to have in a CV as well.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing is your CV has to really stand out, doesn't it? And if an employer's sitting there and they're getting, somebody in the office has printed all the CVs off and there's a pile, this high that arrives, yours needs to kind of jump out at them and grab their attention in some way.
Definitely. It needs to be to the point and quite clear what the information is, and it shouldn't be a book.
So your lockdown has it affected your business then, or the way that you carry it out, or is it all just kind of carried on much the same?
It really affected it probably the first couple of weeks of lockdown, and I think that was with a lot of people adjusting from working from home, people being furloughed, and I think life was just so chaotic at that point. Now we've really stepped back up again because there's now people that have been furloughed and they're worried about their job security, and there's been a few people unfortunately been made redundant as well and are now seeking our support. But also there is a few people now with a bit of time on their hands and they're thinking, now's the time to get my CV organised. So we've very much now back to business as usual. So we're very lucky in that way.
Good. And you have got some tips for us, haven't you?
Yes, I do.
And I think what we called it was 5 tips for a standout CV.
Yeah, so 5 main tips, I would say, because the job market is only going to get more and more competitive as in the next coming months. So it is important to have your CV stand out from your competition. So the main tips that I would have is ensure your CV is tailored towards the job you're applying for. Don't just have a blanket CV that's trying to say everything about any possible job you would apply for. So mirroring the job advert, having a look at it and seeing what information the job advert wants, and you might have to make some slight modifications in there. A section to really focus that on, which is the next point, is the key skills section. It's absolutely imperative you have a key skills and expertise section in your CV, so that basically the recruiter can look at the CV, see at a glance that you meet the criteria, and basically encourages them to read on into the CV as well.
So rather than have a kind of blanket CV that's very basic, and sort of sometimes people add a letter, don't they? And they kind of tailor the letter to the job, but they have the CV kind of standard. You would suggest that they actually looking at their CV for every job and just making sure that it matches up with what they're actually looking for in the role.
Yeah, so for example, I had, even though it's quite similar, I had somebody applying for an employee relations director post, which was all about, employment within the workplace and handling disciplinary and grievances. But then the person also wants to apply for an employment lawyer position, which is equally qualified to do, but that is more in a corporate legal company. So the CVs do look a bit different from each other, and they are focusing on different points.
Yeah. And the key features then, would you suggest that's something like bullet points, or how would you present that information?
So normally about 8 to 10 bullet points is sufficient. A lot of people like to read, like almost add a little blurb after each one. That's not required because that'll come down later in your CV, and there's no point. Again, that makes it harder to read. So usually you start with the professional profile, have a key skills and expertise section, and it's just bullet points, and you can quickly see at a glance, fantastic, this person has exactly what I'm looking for, and then encourages them to read on. And what I would say with that section is really have a look at the job advert and tailor it, because there's applicant tracking systems, which is when a computer can review your CV, and if you aren't matching the words that the computer has in its system, your CV won't be found within that system. So an example could be, for people in HR, they might have recruitment as a key skill, but the company that is hiring calls it talent management. And if they haven't put that one in instead of the other, then they're not going to be found. So it's just important to use the language that the company that you're applying for has.
Yeah, so it's almost like that company's buzzwords. You have to make sure that they match with your CV. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so it's quite a lot of work, really, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they always say applying for a job is a job in itself, and it most definitely is. And I think the employer likes to see that you've made an effort to what you're applying for as well. So it just goes to show that you are sensible enough to make those adjustments to your CV, and you're not just firing everything off, to any job that you see.
Yeah. Okay. So where were we then? We covered the key skills.
Yeah, and tailoring your CV just in general as well. So talking about the main points, particularly in your professional profile. The next thing that I would definitely say would be ensuring you've got key achievements in your CV, particularly if you are, in a more senior position, because that is what makes you unique from other candidates. People, particularly those that work in recruitment, can kind of guess what your responsibilities would be in your job. So if they said even, customer service assistant, you can guess what somebody would do, or a HR manager, again, you can guess that, but what they can't guess is what makes you unique, and that's your key achievements. So it could be any awards you've won while you've been working there, any processes and procedures you've enhanced, any money you've saved the company, or if you're in sales, what are the kind of contracts that you've won, because it allows the reader to see right, fantastic, I can see the scale that they can work for, and I want them to come and do that for my company as well. So as I said, that's what makes you unique, and that helps you stand out from your competition.
Yeah, because I suppose a lot of these job roles could sound quite similar. For example, customer service assistant, but if you were in different industries, the role could vary massively. Or you could be, your customers could actually be people internally within a company, which is very different from maybe, you know, working with the public, for example.
Definitely, and it can be face to face, or it could be over the phone as well. So it can be completely different, but there is, you know, there is going to be something that you've done that is going to be unique compared to your competition, and that's what a lot of people forget. Particularly, we work with a lot of sales, you know, staff or sales directors, business development professionals, and they almost forget to add this very important part in their CV, because if you're applying for a job in sales in any shape or form, people want to know how much money you're going to get them. Are you going to meet your targets? You know, how good are you? And that is what the employer wants to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So do you find that you have a kind of broad range of people that are coming to ask for your help, or does it tend to be senior management?
We do a lot of senior management and executives, but equally as well, we deal with a lot of graduates as well, but that does tend to reflect on when graduate jobs are open as well. So normally graduate positions start hiring again in October, and then in the summer as well, you'll get the lag off them there as well. And graduate CVs probably have to be, the competition for graduate positions is extremely fierce. So, I mean, it's double the amount of applicants for any other industry as well. So that really needs to be to the point. And for the bigger companies, they will most definitely be going through applicant tracking systems. So it really needs to hit the point. But we do basically a wide range of occupations, from accountancy, IT, sales, HR, you know, director level as well. So really anything from school leaver right up to executive level.
Okay. But these tips these apply across the board to anybody. So anybody listening at home,
Definitely.
follow this
Definitely. Because even if you're a graduate as well, there's going to be something that you've done in your work that will have made you stand out from other candidates as well. And I think probably the emphasis with graduates is, I get a lot of them, yes, they concentrate a lot on their studies and talk about that in their CV, which is fantastic and most definitely needed, but they don't elaborate enough on their employment history. And if you're a hiring manager looking to recruit somebody and they've both got a first class honours degree, how then can you differentiate them? And that's through their work experience. So that's the part that really needs to stand out as well.
Okay. So where are we moving? We've got our CV set out now, and where are we moving to next?
So really ensure that you have a clear and consistent layout as well. There's nothing worse than it going on and on for pages. 2 pages is the optimum length, 3 pages for the executives as well, just because they've got probably a larger career and there's more key achievements, etc. into it. But 2 pages tends to be the standard length for a CV. It can increase to 3 if need be, but definitely absolutely no more. Make really good use of white space as well. Make sure your contact details are on the top, including your email address and phone number. It sounds so basic, but the amount of people that are sending out their CVs and their phone numbers are wrong, or they've forgotten to put their email address in there. Yes, there might be forms, but if your CV gets printed out and, you know, comes away from your email address, all your contact details need to be there as well. And probably the last thing, my final tip would be, and it's so basic, is check your spelling and check your grammar, because that is, if they've got absolutely hundreds of applications, that is basically first strike and you're out. So and not to purely rely on Microsoft Word either, because we've had all sorts of embarrassing spelling mistakes, you know, and we've had people renovating horses, and there's all sorts of different spelling mistakes that can happen, or it just looks a bit silly as well. So it's really important that you proof check and even get someone to proof check for you as well.
So going back then to your personal details, how much information do you have to put in there? Do you have to put in your date of birth, for example, or is it contact details?
You'd only have to you can put your address, that's optional, but most definitely your phone number and your email address. You don't now require date of birth or marital status due to age discrimination laws, and it doesn't of course, affect your ability to do the role either. So it's absolutely irrelevant having that information on your CV.
Yeah, yeah. And what about layout then? Because I've seen CVs in my corporate life before where people used to use logos from the companies that they'd worked with before, and have that, when they were talking about their work description and the years that they worked there, they would have the company logo next to it. What's your opinion on that kind of thing?
Most definitely not. So we do get a lot of people that like to think, well, I really want a funky layout, it needs to have colours, needs to have logos, this, that, and the next thing. The problem with that is if you are submitting it to a company that does have an applicant tracking system, which more and more do, the computer can't digest it, and basically the image of it's distorted, and it'll just be all messed up when the person reads it. So although sometimes it can look visually pleasing, it is a bit of a waste of time because the reader won't be able to read it in the end of it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I do remember with the age thing as well, is when I was younger, somebody gave me some advice to say, don't stop putting your date of birth on it now, because people will be ageist because you're young. At that point, you're young for the role that you're going for. So keep your date of birth off it, which was good advice, I think, at that time.
Well, legally, you're not allowed to put it on now because you're, of course, not allowed to be screened based on your age and things like that. So it's strictly to be kept off now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what about things like borders and that type of thing? Are they, again, kind of going to get skewed in a computer system?
Yeah, so the more complicated the layout, so the more, like, some people as well have their CV where one half is saying something and the other half saying another, where it's best just to keep the layout fairly clean, presentable, tidy, nice use of white space, and keep your spacing consistent, your font consistent throughout as well, and just making it a clean layout and very easy to read. A lot of people think, particularly graduates as well, think that you should have this wild and wonderful, colourful CV, but a lot of people do just prefer something that is simple, tidy, presentable, and really it's the words on it that's important. It's the experience that you're looking to showcase, really.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about is job history, because you can go on forever and ever and ever with that, back to when you were 16 or 15, you had a paper round, really. Is there a way of kind of choosing when to cut that off, or can you group items together, that are way back when, if you've had quite a long career?
Yeah, I would advise, unless it's really, really important to the position that you're applying for, is there's no really need to go back any further than 15 to 20 years, depending on what you want to show. And depending on what you're applying for, the person's going to be more interested in your most recent position, so what you've achieved in that role, and those skills and the experience you've gained is up to date and relevant to the position you're applying for. So you're better really expanded upon your key achievements and responsibility in your most recent roles. And if you still want to mention them, you can list them, but there's no need to go into a description about them. But when you're getting to even maybe 30 odd years of age or something, you don't need to be including your first job that you got when you left school or something like that. It's not relevant anymore. So as I said, you're not going to be really assessed on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I think they're fantastic tips. I'm sure people watching are going to be delighted with those, Emma. If they've got any questions on, I'm going to talk to you about LinkedIn in a wee second, but if they've got any questions in relation to the CV Guru, how is it they get in contact with you?
They can get in touch via our Facebook page or straight onto our website, where you can ask questions and we'll get back to you within a day.
That's amazing. Okay, and we'll pop the links above the post once we finish this live, and people can go and click them and go to it through there. Brilliant. So just to touch on LinkedIn before we finish up as well, your other company is the LinkedIn Guru.
Yeah.
And you specialise there in helping people kind of raise their profile on LinkedIn. Would that be the case?
Yeah, so it is working with, although with the CV Guru, we support people with their LinkedIn profiles for their career development, the LinkedIn Guru assess business development professionals and business owners in really achieving inbound leads into their company from LinkedIn. So the way I see LinkedIn is it's almost like your own company website. It should be on your profile, it should be fully optimized so you can be found. And you always have to remember, if someone's going to do business with you as a business owner, they're likely to Google you first. And normally your LinkedIn profile will appear before your own company website, purely because LinkedIn's SEO is far better than most of our websites. And people want to know who they're doing business with, particularly if it is small businesses, or even if you were going to a lawyer or an estate agent, or even the bigger companies, they still want to know who that person is that's going to be taking care of an investment they're about to make. So it's a really important platform. And if you use it right and gain the trust of your audience, you really can gain a lot of business from LinkedIn.
And I suppose the thing about LinkedIn as well is, I think you kind of touched on it there, but it's about the person, isn't it? Inside a brand, really.
Yeah.
So if you work for a large company, it's the individual profile that you're using. So it really can be about you, your personality. And a lot of the times that's what people are looking for when they want to engage in business with you.
No, definitely. They want to know why should they use your service, because I think, you want to be comfortable with who you're going to work with, even if it is a fairly formal, service or product as well. You need to have trust and you want to understand what that person's going to do for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying still since we had that workshop, which was great. And I see Shona Campbell's just commented there saying she's done your workshop as well. It was really good. And I really have focused on Facebook, but I'm going to try and kind of branch out into LinkedIn a wee bit more as well, because it's become really, really popular, more so recently, hasn't it?
Well, they say it's 80% of business to business leads via social media now comes from LinkedIn. And although it is business to business, there's a lot of opportunity for customers on there as well, because I had somebody the other day that was on one of my webinars, and they were they sold high value art pieces. But again, there's going to be people on LinkedIn that have lots of money, CEOs and all sorts of it, that are going to want to buy from them. So I really do think it can be effective for nearly all, companies.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Emma. Thanks for your time. It's been fantastic.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
I know, thanks, because it's and thanks for coming on my first evening lockdown lesson. That's a first for me.
It suits with children, doesn't it? So
yeah, even though one of mine's still kind of crying a wee bit in the background, but hopefully it hasn't upset anyone's viewing pleasure this evening.
No, I don't think so.
Well, thanks again then, Emma, and I'll be in touch soon.
Thanks again. Bye.
Take care. Bye.